What's up guys, Joey here. So AMD just released Adrenalin Edition 22.3.1, which has Radeon Super Resolution support, which is supposed to be a new upscaling driver level upscaling feature. So if you run your game, if your native resolution is, for example, 1440p, and then you lower your in-game resolution to 1080p, it'll automatically upscale it as long as it's in full screen mode and you've got RSR enabled. But there are a couple of issues because it is very new and there's a few bugs to do with it, and mainly to do with enabling it in the first place. And I know a few people will have issues with this, so I just wanted to share because there's a little guide it gives you when you first turn the master switch on, and the guide does not include all the necessary information to get it running. So here's the notes on the left. Hopefully you've already skimmed through them. You can even see they mention known issues. There's even system hangs to do with certain, this is still very early, so there could still be bugs. I've had driver crashes with this specific driver when messing around too much with full screen mode in the game and alt-tabbing out to make sure the RSR switch is working and blah, blah, blah. But long story short, make sure the master switch is enabled, and then this guide that tells you what to do doesn't actually tell you much past enabling it. Go into your game and lower your resolution is basically all it tells you, and then it says there should be an upscale status active tick, but that tick is supposed to be showing in the Radeon software, but I don't know how they overlooked this, but the thing is, when you're in full screen mode, in games, it's exclusive full screen mode. As soon as you alt-tab out of that full screen mode, you're no longer in full screen mode. Does that make sense? So once you've alt-tabbed out, if there is a tick showing in the Radeon software, it disappears almost immediately. And I caught it for a split second when I had the window open, because the tick is meant to show up below the Radeon master switch. It's meant to show up here somewhere. And I saw it for a brief second when I alt-tabbed, and then it was gone. So if you're trying to verify it's running, you can't easily verify unless you have a second monitor. So that's one issue that I found. And the other issue is they don't mention another requirement for RSR, which is the in-game overlay master switch has to be enabled. So normally when you enable RSR, it'll disable all these other functions because it's not compatible with them. It just runs by itself. But in settings called preferences, you also need in-game overlay enabled here. If it's not enabled, RSR does not work, and your shortcut for RSR does not work. So if you're not aware, the shortcut is under hotkeys. It is Alt-U by default, and my Alt-U was not working without having in-game overlay enabled. So I just wanted to share this, get this out there really quick, because I know there's going to be a ton of people trying this out, and yeah, their RSR probably isn't working. And the other downside, or the thing that AMD has overlooked, I don't know how their Q&A team functions, but why would you not give users an option to see that it's running in the overlay? So for example, if I go into settings and record and stream, there is a show indicator option so I know that I'm recording. And if I turn it off, I have no idea whether I'm recording or not. I can't see, like, I could just waste my hard drive space recording by accidentally leaving it running. So there's a show indicator button. There needs to be a overlay with like a green tick or whatever it is, an RSR logo, to show that RSR is enabled, but currently they have not implemented that yet. So the only real way to tell is by going into your game, and I'll just do this live on camera. Going into your game, make sure you're in full screen mode. They also do not specify that in the description. You have to be in full screen mode. I tried it in Borderless, doesn't work. And this is in Elden Ring. So at 3440 by 1440, just here at this is an easy to reach spot for everyone at the gate front where the soldier camp is, a lot of people farm. I'm at my native monitor resolution getting roughly 65 FPS. And now the performance boost of RSR does not come from RSR, it comes from running a lower resolution. Just be aware of that. So whatever your performance is at 1080p, if you're normally running 1440p, that's the best you can hope to get. RSR does not increase it further. It just is naturally higher because you're running at a lower resolution and it is upscaling it. So 65 FPS, and then we're going to drop to, and you have to also stick to your aspect ratio. It also doesn't tell you that. If I use 1440p, which it gave me in the tutorial, it'll actually give me a stretched image. So for ultra-wide users, you've got to use a 21:9 or whatever your ultra-wide aspect ratio is. And if I go down here to 1080p, now I can verify whether RSR is running. And I actually see some jitter here. But we see we went from 68 FPS to 78 FPS in this scene. Now it's different in all the different parts of the game. And then enabling RSR, if I can get it to turn on and off properly. Okay, that's enabled. So when the screen shrunk a little bit, it's like not a perfect, for ultra wide, I'm not sure if they've ironed out all the bugs yet, but for ultra wide, I noticed the edges of my screen will sometimes move around a bit when I enable and disable it. But basically, this is RSR enabled. And I'm at 1080p, but my FPS has gone up by at least 10, if not more. I noticed in some teams I was getting a 20 FPS boost, so anywhere from 10 to 20 FPS on my RX 700 XT setup. But the main benefit of this, apart from the FPS boost, is that I can now cap the FPS and not get FPS drops and horrible stutters. Because when you're running under a certain, frame rate, you'll get the noticeable input latency. So yeah, that's the quick tutorial, just so that if you were wondering how to work it. So Alt-U, and as well, if you want to see the visual thing, just look here at this rocks and look at my armor, the pattern on my armor and my shield. Try to get a good angle here. When I disable it, you'll see it all get blurry. I don't know if you can notice that. It is really subtle. When I enable it, you can see the details sharpen up. So, disabled, enabled, disabled, enabled, and if we I need to rest and get a better time of the day because it's raining. It ruins the image quality anyway because it makes everything soft. We'll pass it to noon. The sun's up with no rain. Oh, it's foggy, but a little bit better. And maybe we'll equip my lantern. Yeah, that'll help. Okay, so see the emblem on my shirt? Enabled, disabled. It gets blurrier, and the shield logo as well. Enabled, disabled, enabled, disabled, and we'll just look at these pushes. Especially pay attention to why is it so dark in this area? Go to morning. Sorry guys. Try to keep this video under 10 minutes. It is really dark even for morning. But yeah, you can see the plants and stuff in the background. We'll go over here to these bushes. Enabled. Oh yeah, you can see the sharpness immediately. So see all these bushes here, the edges of the leaves, and especially my armor and the logo. That's enabled. Disabled. So it's really subtle because, I don't know, maybe it's just the texture quality in Elden Ring. What I noticed is that when I dropped down to 1080p, the game still looked fairly decent. Like, it looked close to my native resolution anyway, even though it is a much lower resolution. But the difference seems more subtle in Elden Ring. I'll have to try some other games like Escape from Tarkov or something else that does not have any upscaling support. So if I zoom in on these rocks, we'll try this. See if I can Alt-U here with the... Yeah, it does work. So disabled, enabled. You can see the sharpness increase, but whatever method or algorithm it's using, the impression I get is it is very similar to Radeon image sharpening or other adaptive sharpening techniques. I can actually replicate this kind of result using ReShade, because ReShade has AMD contrast adaptive sharpening effect if you download the Suite FX package. So I'll just quickly add this on at the end before the time runs out, because I don't want to record all night and I've got kids and family. But basically, if you do not have RSR capable GPU, install ReShade, and I've got it disabled at the moment, but mainly because I wanted to... I'll just make sure RSR is disabled. Okay, it's disabled now. So this is with RSR off. This is what 1080p looks like. 2560 by 1080, so ultra-wide 1080p. And when I enable ReShade instead of RSR, this is what ReShade does. It actually gives more of an image boost overall. It gives sharpness, it gives better colors, it gives better depth to, better shadowing because of the contrast boost. And this, I'm only using three things: Vibrance, Fidelity FX, Contrast Adaptive Sharpening FX, which is in Suite FX package, and Fake HDR. And Fake HDR does this, I'll just show you. It does that. So it gets rid of a lot of the haziness and fogginess. This does the sharpening, so you'll see the logo on my armor getting soft when I disable it. well as sharpening on my armor. And then Vibrance does the colors. So if I didn't want to have colors, or if I just wanted sharpening only so it looks really close to native image, the native color palette or whatever, I would just use the sharpening alone, which has a very similar effect to what RSR is doing. Except you don't need to be running a 5000 or 6000 GPU. You can just run ReShade without those, and as long as it's a decent GPU, whatever. But look, if I turn this on and off, look. On, off. On, off. On, off. It's affecting the sharpness of everything. That's ReShade though. And then if I turn ReShade off, and we'll go back to RSR, it is a little bit better. Quality-wise, but I'm not zooming in at 200%. I do notice the sharpness is a bit better. And then I can put ReShade on top of that and get it even more sharp if I want. But then it starts to look cartoony when it's over-sharpened. But I mainly run ReShade for also the colors. I do love having a bit more color to my gameplay. It makes it feel more fantasy, if that makes sense. Like, if you can see here, everything looks washed out, and I understand the atmosphere they're trying to create, but it can be a grim atmosphere and still have some color in it, and then you can fine-tune it to your preference. So, you know, in ReShade, just disable performance mode and then go into whichever your color adjustment is, and you can just lower that. You can even make it, you know, back to normal colors or darker. The HDR actually does a lot on its own. So maybe I just want like a little bit more color, but not too much. I could have the vibrance like that, or I can turn the vibrance off. And I'm just getting a bit of darkening to the image instead. And vibrance on. Yeah, but I just wanted to share that because that's just another cool thing. I know there's a bunch of people missing out, and they might just be looking at this RSR performance, wondering what the fuss is about. And I can get a similar performance boost just using ReShade. And look, we've even dropped FPS. It could be from turning ReShade on and off too much because it has location and all that stuff. If I just set this back to performance mode, and yeah, but look at the field too. But I'll disable that and disable that, and we'll just quickly go back between resolutions. We'll see if I can get it to go back to 3440 by 1440 so we can see what native was looking like again. And this is native without ReShade. And to be honest, it does not look that different. But my FPS is dropping. It's the rain dropping the FPS, sorry. So we're all the way down to 52 FPS in this scene on native 3440 by 1440. And then I can enable ReShade to get the colors back. It looks a lot nicer for me. Like, even just look at the torches on the wall. They have a lot more depth to them, for lack of a better word. And then if we go back to 2560, we'll see if the FPS goes back up. Yeah, now we're at 10 FPS higher roughly. But this rain is really messing with the frame rate. So we just got to turn around that way, the view distance and everything. Let's try going to noon. Maybe this will make it daytime? It's a little bit better. Okay, so ReShade is off, and we are just going to do RSR. And you can also, if you happen to be using ReShade and you are using similar effects to me, you can also disable the adaptive sharpening because RSR has already got enough sharpening in it, and then just have your color boost because you don't want to over sharpen everything. See how the grass just gets way too sharp? Yeah, you can just disable that. But fake HDR is great, and the slight boost of colors from vibrance is awesome. But I recommend turning that off for running RSR. RSR is great. I would use RSR over adaptive sharpening, over the ReShade sharpening if you have it, but if you don't, it is a great alternative. And then now we're running at 75 FPS. So 75 FPS, and basically, if we want an apples to apples, I'll just stay at this exact camera angle and just so you can see 54 FPS. So, or 58. It moves around a bit because it's loading all the textures in and everything. Reloading it, caching. About, what were we at, 78 FPS? It's about an 18 FPS boost. Pretty darn good for this scene. And look at the resolution, like just look at the image quality, it's great. And I'll just disable, just make it look vanilla again, so our reshade's off. So this is native, and then I'll go back to 1080p and make sure RSR is on. It turns itself off if you go to, you know, if you change back to your native resolution anyway. And look at this frame rate. So RSR is on. Just make sure it's on. I'm just going to keep ReShade off for this one. So you can see ReShade is off because it's tells you at the top left. The ReShade is disabled. And we'll just go somewhere close so we can just double check and make sure. You can tell when I look really close at my armor when I disable it. It gets blurry. When I enable it, it sharpens up. So even look at my shield pattern. This is disabled and then enabled. Like the depth and the sharpness comes back to the pattern. Disabled, blurry, enabled, sharp again. And these bushes were probably the best one. Just turn my light off. Well, that was helping. Disabled, enabled. And the rain has come back though. But yeah, you can see the FPS boost. Pretty good. And we'll get into some combat just to see if there's any weird artifacting or, you know, movement issues, ghosting or anything like that. I don't think there is because of the way the technique works. And I'm just in this spot because it's easy for anyone to reach if they wanted to test a comparison. Oh no, his horn worked. Oh, it's gonna kill. Look at that. Being level 50 has its benefits, doesn't it? Don't use the hits hard. Just gotta take that big knot out. And I can do my swirly dance. He does not want to let me hit it. Right, it's because my shield accidentally went away. I hit my hotkey. Yeah, I could not even hit him. It's too many. Can I hold it here, or is it going to just automatically respawn me? It is. But yeah, you can see the image quality, and I hope that video helped you out. Like, for the people that were trying to get it working, they would have already left. Like, they would have turned it off straight away at the beginning of the video. And we'll just run back here, see if we can look at some of this with the lighting. And I'll just disable it, see if the structures get blurry. Yeah, they do. So if I get my bow out, I think I'm also running heavy because of this bow. No, on medium. But yeah, you can see the textures on the rocks, and that's disabled. Enabled. Disabled. Let's look around here. Cracks and everything. Enabled. Disabled. Enabled. So hopefully you guys can see that difference, but to me, I think you can get just as good results, if not better, in the complete package of ReShade just because of the color difference. When I turn ReShade on, for me it's night and day. So this adds atmosphere back to the game, which is missing in the first place, mainly because of their choice of color scheme. And yeah, you can just see it. Like, even if I've got everything set to high, right, except for volumetric and depth of field, SSAOs, which is meant to add depth, and the default shadows in the game just do not add the right level of shadowing that I like, and everything's just like too bright. and washed out looking. When I enable ReShade, it just brings that depth back. And for me, that actually makes a bigger difference than RSR running at 1080p. Where's my body? We're gonna take out that knight this time, and then I'm gonna end the video. Yeah, take that on if I just spam you. How do you like it? Yeah, see how easy he was? Using a +8 halberd. But now they're not easy. I want to get the spearman. Nope. Oh, wait. Spear users are the most annoying, eh? Oh, 2 in 1. No way. I want to use my Elden Ring. Over here. Come at me. Take you all on. Until I run out of mana. Where are you going? Would you believe I'm level 50 dying to these guys? Yep. I just wanted to hit them with this move, that's why. Oh, that's so little. If anyone's wondering, this is the +8 halberd with a Knight's Flame Art enhancement, but it already comes with the spinning strikes by default, and you get it by going to castle. Like, you can get it really early in the game. You just go down south of Limgrave, across the Bridge of Sacrifice, just ride your horse, get into the castle, and if you can somehow get your way to the top of the castle, the guys like here on, like, you have to go up in the front gate along here, and there's like a ladder. You climb the ladder, make your way around, and it gets you to you got to jump down and go along this edge, like outer castle wall, and the guy's like at the end of this tower, and it's like the guy that owns the castle, whatever. And normally for the quest, if you leave him alive and he goes to look for, I think it's his daughter, and his daughter's dead, and then he goes crazy, he later comes back and attacks you, but you can kill him when he's still friendly, like he's not even strong, and he hasn't got all his buffs. And if you kill him early, before he turns evil, through grief, because he gets grief stricken, if you kill him early, you get a +8 halberd, and you can get it at like level 15, and then you'll have this mad halberd, and the requirement is 14 strength, 12 dex for a +8 halberd, like before level 20. So yeah, I just want to share that. That's nothing to do with the video. I'm just rambling on, and thanks for watching, guys. Let's just turn ReShade off again just to see the default color palette. That's blue green. This is the cool thing about ReShade. You can just easily tweak it if you feel like, okay, there's a bit too much vibrance going on here. I want it to be a bit closer to the native colors. Like, see how bright you can make it? You can make it like a freaking cartoon. Maybe just 50 is good. And also on the, I think 1.3 is what I was happy with. Like, I didn't want it too dark because it starts to make it hard to see in some places. They're normally bright. And I could also disable RSR, so I'll just give you that example now. So RSR on, RSR off, and then turn on the ReShade version, and I've still got good sharpness, and yeah. I could even turn off the fake HDR and the colors to make it close to the original. And see the ReShade sharpening difference is off, on, off, on. See his armor, off, on, and if we have a few bushes to stand in, you can just see the grass again, off, on, off, on, off, on. What about the rock wall over here? But this is ReShade, sorry, not RSR. I'm just sharing it for some other people. Off, on. It's also sharpening up the textures, which is a similar effect to upscaling the textures, apparently. That's how it looks to me. Bodies. Off, on, and this is where a lot of the difference comes in. I mean, look at the sky, how much cooler it looks when it's got a bit more color to it. We even make it like fully, like the tree can actually be gold. But then it's almost too much. Like even 150 is a good boost to the vibrance of the game. Do that. Hey, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.